We have a visitor in our household today. This is Hope. Hi, Hope. She's upset because Zion and my mom are on a walk to the park. There's Penny watching for them out the window. Hey, Penny. Wanna play laser? Ready? Go. This is a little laser. Go, 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 go. Hope doesn't quite get it. Okay. Let's see, what time is it? Oh my gosh, she's whining. It is 9:40 and my mom's gonna be here until like 11:30 at the latest when we put Zion to bed, so I gotta get going. I think we're gonna go grab some coffee and then I'm gonna answer some of your questions.
You get everybody staring for days. All the seas just a young pretty face.
Yeah. Small ice mocha. There you go. That should do it.
Don't matter how much time it would take.
Right, let's hang out here. This is a good spot. First of all, thank you guys so much for 40,000 followers. That's incredible. That's amazing. I put up this post on my YouTube community tab. As a thank you, I want to do a Q&A video, try to answer as many questions as possible. And I also put this on Instagram. So I got questions from YouTube and from Instagram. So let's just kick it off and dive in. How long did it take to build up to 40K? Great question. I started my YouTube channel in 2009 and it's 2023. But if you mean Authortube specifically, that I didn't start until 2017, I believe it was. I think it was October-ish 2017. I had, up till that point, I had done like music videos on YouTube. I love making videos and editing, always have. I've done it since I was a kid. And so I had only grown my channel to about, I think it was like 330 something people. And in October 2017, I changed over to Authortube, aka videos about writing from an author perspective, and I haven't looked back since, and it's taken a while. So if you count, I would say I'd count that as my true beginning for this channel that we're on. So yeah, 6 years pretty much this coming October. I have my website domain name under my regular name, but I worry about using it for my author platform. Sorry, my brain is not working today. Okay, I think if I'm reading this question right, they're asking if they should have a pen name or not. So Paris, a pen name is totally acceptable. Tons of writers have pen names. If there's any question in your mind where you're like, I just don't feel comfortable having my personal name, then choose a pen name. Nothing wrong with that. On the other hand, if it's more fear-based and you would be proud to have it be a regular name, don't be afraid. I don't know if there's any right answer to this question. For most people, if there's a hesitation about using their real name, then feel the freedom to use a pen name. That's totally okay. What is your #1 tip for writing a blurb that is both intriguing and enticing to encourage book sales? Just so you guys know, I'm a very detail-oriented person, so my brain is like flooded with 30 different things that I would want to share that I've picked up in the last few years, but you said #1 thing. So if it's just #1, this is not like the only thing, but the #1 thing that I think would be most important for a blurb is to have that first sentence have a hook. And by a hook, I mean something that makes the reader ask a question where they need to know the answer, and to get the answer, they want to keep reading to know more, if that makes sense. As I'm editing my books, I like to have family and friends proofread them. I would like to give them something, whether it be money or a gift in exchange for the time they're spending reading, but I'm not sure what a good price would be. Okay, first of all, this is another thing where there's no standard. I feel like I'm going to say that about every question in this video. There's no right way to do a lot of these things, and there's no like requirement to pay people anything, but it's very nice of you to want to do that. I think that's amazing. I guess if I were approaching this myself, my personal preference would be how much work is this going to be for them is probably what I'd ask. And if it's like, oh my gosh, they never read anything, I should probably give them like a really nice gift card to something. Or if it's like, no, they love to read books and they're doing this because they're really excited about the story, maybe I will ask them if they want to swap and I read something they write. You know what I mean? So it depends on the person. This is just like any other gift that you're going to give anybody. It really depends on the person. Have you ever overplotted your story and then got bored with it? Yes, I always get bored with the story at some point. So it might be because your plotting was done like for too long and you got bored that way, or it could just be the natural progression of the shiny idea isn't as shiny anymore. That's totally normal. I think you got to realize, like, for us creatives, we always have to push through at some point, and it's just a matter of knowing yourself and knowing if it's the right book to push through on. Are you like so incredibly bored that you can't stand working on it? Or are you just like, it's not quite as exciting anymore, I feel like I know it too well? could just take a break and come back to it. But I am going to challenge you because I get this way with every single story. It's something that happens when, like, from a reader's perspective, you just read something once and you're experiencing it for the first time, right? And so when you're plotting your story, that's kind of that first experience. And then, well, now I know the story. But if you want to be a writer, obviously you have to push through that sense of, well, I've been here, now I know what's happening, and get to love and enjoy the process of writing the story itself, because that's also a new experience and a really fun surprise sometimes. And the same thing with editing. Like, by the time you've edited something for like the 10th time, you're gonna be like, I know this story so well, I'm really bored. That's okay. But if you can find ways to spice it up, maybe that's an opportunity to do more brainstorming and go a little bit further into the story and add some new flavors that you wouldn't have thought of adding the first time around or the second time around. But just know that getting bored is totally normal, and it's going to be up to you to question, is this something where I just really don't even care anymore to write the story, or is this something where I can push through? They're doing like lawn work over there. Let's move somewhere. The next question was, what was the single most effective thing that I've ever done for marketing? And that's such a hard question because I want to be like, social media, no. ARCs, no. Newsletters, no. BookBub, no. So it's really not something where you can be like, the only thing that I would ever do if I could only do one thing ever. But most effective, I was shocked by the BookBub that I did, actually. I remember it was specifically the time where I did the free sale on the Stolen Kingdom. So I had set it to 99-cent sales and it did okay. But when I put it on free, it was almost 20,000 new readers. 20,000. And those were brand new readers. Now, could I have done that sale without doing a lot of other things first? No. I needed to do the ARCs to get the reviews, to even get the BookBub, because you have to have a certain number of reviews to even be considered for a BookBub, and BookBubs aren't guaranteed. You have to do so many other things. But I would say that was like incredible. And I don't know if that'll ever happen again, because not every sale on the Stolen Kingdom was that way. I've run a sale on the Cursed Hunter and it wasn't nearly as good. Nowhere close. And I'm about to do my very first sale ever on the Secret Gift, so we'll see. We'll see how it compares. But I hesitate to even give you the answer because I don't know if it would ever be true again. It might have been a one-time hit, but it was pretty cool. We're on a parking ramp. Favorite writing memory. I'm gonna say, okay, it's not really a memory because it's a blur. I literally don't remember the first few months after having a baby hardly at all. But it's more like a sense of that time is my favorite time. Like, I remember that time being really, really cool. And thankfully, I actually have that all on video, so I can go back and watch and remember what the heck it was like writing after I had my little guy. But yeah, I can't even describe how thankful I was to find out that I could still write in this new season of life, if that makes sense. And that's going to be the answer for this too. One of the videos that I'm most proud of was probably that first video that I made after having Zion. I was just like, I can do this. I can create. I'm so happy. Oh my gosh. These questions with the best, like, what do you think the best writing / publishing decision you ever made is? Those are always the hardest to answer because if you think about it, none of your decisions in life really stand on their own. Well, I don't know if that's true. But when it comes to writing and publishing, if you decide to do, X, Y, Z, usually there's the whole alphabet that led up to that decision. So that said, I would say the decision to self-publish was a really cool decision because it allowed me to just jump right in, get started, and I love it. It's really fun. What lies beyond the edges of the Stolen Kingdom map, and are there other lands for future books? I always picture that there are, but if you're asking, am I the type of author who brainstormed the entire world and named all the other countries and all that jazz? No, I don't do that. In fact, sometimes I don't discover like 2/3 of the world building until like the third or fourth edit through the story. Like, I don't know. I used to try, when I very first started out writing, I tried to fill out those world building questionnaires. It's just not for me. If it doesn't affect the story, I don't know. That's the crazy thing. How weird is that? Yeah, I don't know. That's not to say there's nothing beyond the edges, because one day a book idea could come up and that was on the outlying edge of the map, and there you go. Let's write the story. You never know. What is your book copyright process? How do you get it done? Okay, so in the US, your book is considered copyrighted the moment that you write it. And so sometimes I will do the legal filing on top of that, but not always. There's some books lately I haven't even bothered. The reason for that, let me back up and tell you the steps first. So basically, I will email myself the book so that I have both a backup in case my computer dies, but also so that I have that proof with a dated email that this is my work. And that's pretty much all I do at this point. And then once the book is completely done, I mean, literally, I'm not planning to touch it ever again. In theory, front matter, back matter, like the entire book is done. Then I will take that file along with the cover file if I have it, and I will submit that to the US Copyright Office and just file it and go through the steps. I think it's like $55 right now. I haven't done this for a while because it turns out that even if you do this, people still pirate your book. It is incredibly frustrating. I hate it. It makes me so mad that people think it's okay to do this, but they do. If I discover that somebody's pirating my book, I will send a cease and desist email. In a lot of instances though, it'll like say it's my book, but then like the blurb will be from a different book and like you can tell that it's really not. I never ever click on it, but a lot of times it's most likely a virus instead of the book itself anyway. Basically what I'm trying to say is copywriting, it's great if you want that extra legal protection and you want to pay for it, but it doesn't always do anything. At this point, I pretty much just email myself the book so that I have that proof that I wrote it way back when, and I call it good. What is the most difficult part of outlining? Okay, so I use the Save the Cat Writes a Novel beat sheet. I have this video on it if you want to know more. And I find that, I don't know if this is what you're actually asking, but I find that when it comes to the ending, not the ending exactly, because I usually have the very ending figured out. But if you know the Save the Cat Writes the Novel beat sheet, it's the bad guys closing in beat that I struggle with. I almost always know the midpoint, and then the fun and games beat, I know it, but I never know enough of it, if that makes sense. And then the All is Lost and the Dark Night of the Soul, those kind of go together in my mind. I don't always know those either. I feel like I have a sense for them, and then sometimes it's like, whoa, those don't go there at all. They go way earlier or later in the story. I don't know if that's what you were asking, but I don't really worry about it too much because I'm more of a discovery writer. So I get as much of the outline as I can and then I just go for it. Please share your world building tips because you do it so well. Oh my gosh. Thank you. That was very sweet of you. I do have 4 videos on this, so I will link them below if you want to watch. I think it's a playlist. But if I were to make it just to one tip, I would say it's all in the details. Like if you can pick out just little things to slip in there. Oh, and also, this is number 2, make it relevant to the character, relevant to the story. Then it just feels so much more real if it's just this one little random detail versus like a big opening, you know, info dump of how the trash system works and the politics and all these things that don't matter and the reader doesn't care, versus if you just slip in little details that matter to the specific character you're talking about, it feels so much more real. My camera battery died, so we're home now. Let's keep chatting. I'm gonna take a sip. All right, what is one regret and one bucket list item you still have at this point in your journey? That's a tough one. Okay, let's start with regrets. I would say not paying attention to ROI, which means return on investments. In the beginning, I would just like buy things. I was like, oh my gosh, this is exciting. I'm gonna do it. And I wouldn't calculate if I would get a return on my investment. And so, like, for example, if you spend $200 to make $20, that's not a good ROI. That's a very bad ROI. At the same time, do I regret it? Not completely, because I had to learn somehow. The bucket list item, I'm gonna say having my books be made into either a movie or a TV show. That is just top of my list. Actually, oh my gosh, being on a bestseller list would also be incredibly cool because that would mean I would have had to sell tens of thousands of books, right? But as far as I'm aware, the New York Times bestseller list is pretty much impossible for an indie author to hit, and then the USA Today bestseller list is currently not even happening. So I'm gonna go with TV or movie. Can you please do more videos on proofreading, how you proofread? Love watching. I definitely can. I actually have to proofread The Secret Shadow, book 2 in the Queen's Rise series this coming, I don't know if it'll be end of May or early June, but that'll be coming up. I'll keep you posted. What do you do when you finish a book? Do you stop writing or write short stories for a newsletter? You're saying, do I like stop working on stories, stop creating, or do I keep creating basically? I don't have a strategy. I should, but I don't. It really depends. I'm working on getting better at this, but my whole indie career has been pretty much which fire do I need to put out next? And like what urgent deadline is coming up next that I need to do. Oh wait, you said finish a book. Oh my gosh, I'm getting on a tangent answering not even the right question. So when you're talking like on release day, the book is done and it's finished, I usually need a break. That's more because I haven't even been like writing the book at that point. So if you're talking more like finish writing the book, I also need a break. I think everybody's different, you know? Some people might be like, I like to keep my creative muscles strong by continuing to write something. Me, I usually need a break. And I find that if I step back and give myself time off, then I'm more excited about writing when I come back to it. I think it's a personal preference type thing. I don't think there's a right way. I feel like every answer that I'm giving is just saying there is no right way. And that's a really good picture of the indie author life, is that don't look for the right way to do things because there isn't one. Which one of your characters out of Kaden, Bosh, and Malakai do you love the most? Okay, so Kaden, he has a special place in my heart. I really love him. But Malakai was actually super fun as well. I'm gonna say Kaden because I put a lot of favorite characteristics in guys into him, if that makes sense. What side character would you make a short story about in the Stolen Kingdom series? Okay, I have to say this because it's just too ironic. If you'd asked me this a year and a half ago, I would have said Jezebel because I thought her story was going to be a short story. Now here I am, 3 full books into it. Do I really think I can write short stories anymore? No, I don't really think I know how to write a short story. If you are talking about just a story in general, Nezrin and Malakai could potentially have a story. Gideon could potentially have a story. I love him. He's so fun. He could have something. Maybe Rena, you know, in the ocean. Something, I don't know though. I don't know. We'll have to see. I feel like also Kaden's crew, I wrote them so that they could potentially have each their own story if I wanted to. Can we get a sneak peek, like a first chapter or a small scene from Invisible Souls? Oh my gosh. I'm gonna say yes, because why not? Why not? Okay, before I show you this, I just have to say this. I read a lot of vampire books last year, I think at least 3 or 4. So before I actually go and make this the official first line, I have to double check that I'm not subconsciously pulling something from one of those books. So I am gonna have to go back and look at them and see if they had any vibes like this because I don't remember. But the Uber driver was a vampire. That's my first line. It made sense. We were going home at like 3 a.m. Still, I slipped a hand in my purse and pulled out the claws off spray, making sure it was discreetly pointed in his direction. I was being reckless, not stupid. Chess! My friend Fortune dragged out the last half of my name with a giggle, glancing between the spray and the driver. He probably knew. They had an excellent sense of smell. I turned pink, but held my ground. Barely. If that doesn't give you a vibe for the story, I don't know what will. I'm so tired, you guys. I can't even think straight. As soon as I'm done answering these questions, I'm gonna go take a nap till Zion wakes up. But I hope you enjoyed that sneak peek. Let me know in the comments if you did. Oh my gosh. Like freaking out after the fact. It's too late now. How do you stay on track on one project instead of starting multiple and never finishing one? I don't stay on track. I don't. It's hilarious that you asked this because probably when I put this question box up, I was very much off track writing Invisible Souls, what I just showed you, instead of working on my, I guess, what I call my deadline book. So the Queen's Rise series, I don't know if it's the coffee or just being super tired. I did not sleep enough last night and it's hitting me really hard. Maybe if I get really close, I'll be more focused. I was supposed to be working on The Secret Shadow or The Secret Curse. So book 2 or book 3 in the Queen's Rise series. Book 2 is coming out in June. So I have less than 2 months till it comes out. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna try not to think about that right now. But I don't stay on track perfectly. But what I do is if I go off track, I give myself deadlines. And then once I reach that point, I actually vlogged this. If you want to watch it, I'll link it below whenever it's live. I make myself stop on that deadline and come back to the main project. Or I try to keep one project a priority project, and if I take a break, that's okay, because sometimes it's necessary and helpful. Sometimes if I'm sending the priority project off to like a beta reader or a critique partner, then I let myself play with other fun creative projects. But I try to always have one project be the priority project that if I have to, I drop other things to focus on that. Do you finish your outlines before you start drafting your novels? Kind of. I do a really, really sparse, like, one-liner outline at the bare minimum of the Save the Cat beat sheet. I don't know, I try to go a little more in depth, but I don't worry about it being perfect, and I don't spend too much time on it, maybe like a week or two, and then I just dive into writing, and I kind of discovery write things that were gaping holes in the outline. If I don't know, I figure it out later. Again, not saying that's right for everybody, that's just what happens to work for me at the moment. Any tips on adjusting to writing in small pockets of time rather than large chunks? This is such a good question. I don't do really well in small pockets still. I would say that I haven't fully adjusted yet, but it is a mental thing. Like some days I will be like, I only have this much time, it's not worth it. Other days I'll have that same amount of time and I'll be like, I have this much time, let's see how much I can get done. So some of it is just mentally being like, it's actually more time than you think. But another thing that does help me is to break it up into like writing sprints. If you've ever done, 15-minute sprints or 20-minute sprints where it's very focused, you turn on a timer and you don't do anything else until that's done, that can help me get really focused. I don't always remember to do it, but if you have accountability, like sometimes, not often, but sometimes in our Discord group over on my Patreon, we do sprints that way. And even if nobody else is in the sprinting group and I'm just running a sprint by myself, it helps me stay focused. So that can help a little bit. This next question makes me laugh how it's phrased. Is it cool to start working on a second book while still drafting the first? The first is mostly done. Is it cool? I don't know. I'm not really that cool of a person. Is it smart? Again, it depends on the person. For me, it would not be smart because I would most likely, and I've done this, I would most likely just completely forget to come back to that book. If I'm on a shiny new idea, I chase the shiny new ideas and I have a hard time coming back. Now, that said, going back to what I said earlier, I will make myself deadlines because I know this about myself. So I'll be like, okay, I get to chase the shiny new idea for 1 week and then I'm coming back to this project. And honestly, the best thing you can do for yourself is experiment and see what works for you, because what works for me might not work for you. I have seen authors who can work simultaneously on 2 different books at the same time, and I want to so bad, and I say it all the time. I'm like, I think I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it. It never works out for me. So when I do work on 2 different books within the same month, I typically need to give a whole week at least to a book before I switch gears and come to a different book. If I was like 1 day for this book, 1 day for that book, even that's a little bit too abrupt for me, for my brain to switch gears. Yeah, just experiment. See what works for you. Where do you come up with your ideas? That's a good question. I'm like, do I even know? A lot of them are real life inspiration mixed with things that I love to see in books, if that makes sense. So for example, my current most shiny idea project, Invisible Souls, is something that was based on real life experience, and then it kind of changed and took on a whole different shape as I pulled inspiration from different stories that I love. Like it's got some Lion King inspiration, some Invisible Man, it's an invisible girl, but Invisible Man inspiration, some Lunar Chronicles inspiration, and just other tropes that I really love. But I think ultimately, as I'm thinking out loud, this is coming to me now, it really boils down to the theme of the story, even if you don't totally know what it's going to be. If you're like, I really want to tell a story about, for me, Invisible Souls is about how to not take on other people's opinions of you and how to find who you truly are and recognize that and be confident in that. And that is something, I don't even have the words, you guys. I'm not an expert in storytelling by any means, but I feel like pull from your own real life experience and then mesh that with other story elements that you love, and you'll create this brand new, really cool thing. Best tip to not stress or rush the writing process. Let me think on that for a second. Oh Oh my gosh, I'm so the worst person to ask because I used to stress, I still do sometimes, about books so much. Okay, I don't know where you're at, so this might not apply to you, but for me, a lot of the stress was from imposing deadlines on myself that I treated like they were just set in stone, and they were very rushed deadlines. And so what's helped me a lot is to push those deadlines out. Not putting so much pressure on yourself to finish at a certain date, just make them tentative dates. That can help. As far as rushing the writing process, I've done this too. I always do this. I feel like I just want to be where I want to be as soon as possible, and it's really hard not to rush. So this is off the top of my head again, but I would say getting people around you to help you slow down. So for example, I was like, my story is so good, I think it's almost ready, I think it's almost done. Sent it to my critique partner, and she gave me a lot of developmental feedback, meaning big picture stuff that needs to be fixed. And I'm currently rewriting the whole first chapter of The Secret Shadow with her feedback to try to make it better. Yeah, getting people around you to be like, it'll be okay, but you've got some work to do. How did you create your LLC name? Should you look into pre-orders after cover design and uploading to, okay, that's a separate, let's do one question at a time. How did you create your LLC name? So I don't know if you're asking like, how did I make my company? You go to a Secretary of State website and you follow the instructions. And that's the furthest I'm gonna get there because I'm not an expert in that. If you're talking about the actual name, like how did I come up with Grace House Press? That is a good question, I don't remember. I think I wanted it to sound like a publishing house, so I picked something House Press, and then I liked that it was 5 letters each, and I am a Christian, so I think grace is really important, and I think I just like the sound of it, honestly. I don't remember. And then should you look into pre-orders after cover design and uploading to vendors? Should you look into pre-orders? I'm not sure I understand this question. Look into pre-orders. Like, should you wait to do them until after cover design and uploading? Well, you have to upload to vendors before you're capable of doing a pre-order, so that's for sure. You don't have to have a cover design to do a pre-order. I had a cover, and I might do this again, where you put up a temporary kind of placeholder cover. You have to have something, but it doesn't have to be your final cover. It could be like a black or white graphic with the text on it of the title and like a cover coming soon or something on that. If you have a cover, I would definitely say it'd be better to include that in your pre-order, but you can technically set it up before you have a cover, an official cover. You know what? Actually, I'm just gonna say, to answer that, technically you do have to have some kind of cover, and you do have to upload to vendors before you can even consider a pre-order. Not sure if I understood that question well enough to answer it, but let me know in the comments if that's what you meant. I think that's it. I'm gonna go take a nap. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. It means so much to me. I really appreciate it. If you have any other questions, stuff you would enjoy a video on, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll get a chance to do a video on those topics in the future. Okay, I'm gonna go take a nap. Bye.
Then all